to instead distribute the money among the top 9 teams from 2001. AJ, this thing is really getting messy.
Well, it almost seems like Tom Walkinshaw's has got the axe out for Stoddart and Minardi. I mean, every time they want to do something, it's invariably Walkinshaw that's putting up the red flag. I can see both sides of the argument, but for goodness sake, like, Minardi need the help, they need the money. We want to see more cars in Formula One, not less. Let's give them a bit of a help and get on with it.
Well, I'm talking about there was some talk that they're going to sue each other, but apparently that can't happen.
The so-called Concord Agreement prohibits them from suing each other, but it can go to arbitration, and I'm just wondering who the arbitrator would be.
I think I've got a fair idea. All right, in the meantime, still on Stoddart, he's signed an obscure Slovak called Jirko Malkaric, and as his new test driver. Now, the 35-year-old is a member of Parliament. Have a listen to this, a sports commentator. The suggestion from the paddock is that Malkaric has bought the test drive as an exercise in self-promotion. So both sides win as he gets the publicity and Minardi gets the cash. Funny being Formula One. I mean...
he's probably got an ego he can't jump over.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, 35-year-old test driver, I mean, where's he going? Where's his future? I just find that totally ridiculous.
Well, I suppose Stoddart is just looking to whatever cash he can get, because the word is, if he doesn't get cash very shortly, he won't go past the British Grand Prix.
No, well, as I said last time we were on air, he is going out the back door to the tune of about $1 million a week, I believe, which is not good, that is for sure.
And the rumour is that Webber has had a talk with both Toyota and Renault. Well, he is contracted to Renault.
Well, Mark's done exactly what he should have done, and that's do the very best he can in the machinery that he's got. And he has done that extremely well. And other people have looked at that and thought, well, hang on, if he's doing that in that thing, maybe he can do a real good job in our car.
OK. Now, there's been a change to the pit exit. We mentioned that off the top of the show for today's race. I think it was Schumacher nearly hitting Frentzen some years ago now.
It's always been a really dicey exit leaving the pits here. So what they've done is when you leave the pits, you run parallel with the circuit for a while before you come in. So instead of coming back onto the circuit at turn 1, I think you join it closer to turn 2. What this will mean now, I think, is it'll make for a lot quicker pit stops, which could alter the strategy. Instead of being a one-stop race, it could very well be 2 stops, because the teams calculate hundreds of seconds, obviously, in their stops. And if they think by making the car quicker with a lighter fuel load, being able to get in and out of the pits quicker, they could very well go for a 2-stop strategy.
OK, well, there it is. Live pictures coming in now. We'll now take you to James Allen, Martin Brundle for our coverage.
Would have been on the last row of the grid this year. He would have just crept into the race with last year's pole, partly because the track is 69 metres shorter with the repositioning of the hairpin, partly because it's 2 metres wider into turn 1, and as Rubens pointed out on the grid, that means they're a gear up, taking a lot more speed through turn 1. But also we have seen lap times smashed by over 2 seconds per lap, haven't we, in qualifying anyway through this season, as the tyre war hots up and really Williams and McLaren moving up to really challenge that utterly dominant early season Ferrari. But track temperatures then over 30 degrees, that's the hottest we've seen it. And do you remember in qualifying yesterday when the sun came out, all of a sudden the weight of the Michelin runners moved forward, didn't it? And then towards the end, when the track cooled again, Bridgestone seemed strong, and of course Bridgestone was strong in the warm-up, but it was a lot cooler.
Yes, it's going to be a race that changes throughout the course of around about the next hour and a half, which is the expected duration, unless we have a safety car, of course, or any kind of rain intervention. The track will change, the circumstances will change. It's a race that's going to unfold in front of us, and the first thing to do is get into the first corner. Now, we saw in Monaco 2 weeks ago Juan Pablo Montoya having problems with the Williams launch control system. Speaking to the engineers from Williams in the last couple of days, they say that they believe they've fixed it. They believe they can get him away cleanly today, but it's really in the hands of the computer. I
watched them all practice this morning, and the one really struggling was Fisichella, who's 6th on the grid. His system seemed to keep dropping out. He wasn't activating it properly. For whatever reason, Fisichella not getting cleanly away at the end of the pits this morning. Everybody else seemed fine. I have to say the McLarens and the Renaults seemed super strong on that launch control.
Everybody taking their positions. Everyone is in position. You know the drill. When the 5 lights go off, we'll be racing in Canada. Are you sitting comfortably? Then let's begin. Go! Fantastic sweep across the front by Montoya. Barrichello away well, and it's 1, 2, 3. Barrichello goes inside Michael Schumacher. That looks And to me, I have to say, the rumour before the race was that he might go off on a two-stopper, and we've already got race strategy playing into our hands. Montoya leads in Montreal, but Barrichello is in second place.
I do tend to agree with you, James, that Michael eased him through quite comfortably, and the Barrichello looked ready to take that instantly. Seems to me the two McLarens got away well also, so really a tactical start, and as Barrichello pointed out on the grid, that 2 metre wider, the width of a car effectively, just eased the whole first section far more than we've seen in the past.
So watch out now then for Rubens Barrichello attacking Juan Pablo Montoya in this opening sequence. We believe they're running different strategies. It's going to be a fascinating battle as Montoya streaks down away at the back. Barrichello second, Michael Schumacher third. Fourth is Raikkonen, fantastic start for him. He's displaced Ralf Schumacher down to fifth. Sixth is Coulthard up from eighth, a fantastic start for the Scot. Seventh is Heidfeld. Fisichella has dropped from sixth down to eighth. Trulli is ninth, and Villeneuve in 10th place.
Yes, so as we said, Fisichella appeared to be struggling with his launch control, and now you've got to assume Michael Schumacher on the harder option of Bridgestone, and look how light that car is of Rubens Barrichello. It's just breezed past Montoya, and now his job this afternoon, James, is to slow Montoya down. We've got a Jaguar gone in the pit lane in front of us, De La Rosa already in the pit lane, and Rubens now, will they use him tactically to hold Montoya up for Michael, or will he just disappear into the distance and be allowed to run his own race?
Well, the Jaguar actually hit the wall. If you look at the right-hand side, as you look at it, the left-hand side, as he looks at it, he hit the wall in the final corner, and De La Rosa went straight on into the pit lane. But now, at the front, we've got Rubens Barrichello, and he's running away from Juan Montoya, and I think possibly the strategy there from Ferrari was to see if they could force Montoya into making some kind of mistake, because he didn't bite back, he didn't bite on the cherry, he let Barrichello go through, he could see he was faster. And now we have a very interesting scrap on our hands. Michael Schumacher also pushing very hard.
Yes, Schumacher got very close to Montoya into turn 8. He's fallen back a bit for some reason, but for whatever it is, they're getting instant performance from those Bridgestones, and the Michelin runners are taking time to get up to speed. You have to say, look at Barrichello then, currently third. Michael just eases him through, and that was, no doubt about it, a tactical move. And later on in this lap, and as the cars cleanly go through, Rubens Barrichello just drove off that final corner, blasted past Montoya. Montoya will know the story. He will not panic about that.
No, he won't panic, but it's an interesting development, a pretty risky thing to do as well, wouldn't you say? I mean, you can't really choreograph things when you've got 22 testosterone-driven young men all charging into the first corner at about 120 miles an hour. Difficult to sort of choreograph things.
It's easier now with launch control. And look, here then is Montoya. Looks, he came off the last corner absolutely fine, probably a bit tardy, but Barrichello looking like he's on a qualifying lap, breezed around the long way round really, but took track position for the first left-hander. And now it's sort of settling down a little bit. Barrichello just 0.8 of a second ahead as they crossed the finish line last time around. Montoya stabilised.
Well, Pedro de la Rosa has rejoined the race. We're on board though with Juan Montoya in second place. Ahead of us is Rubens Barrichello as we go into this new hairpin section. Tight into the corner, hit the gas. They're going to hit 205 miles an hour at the end of this long straightaway.
And I have to say, Ferrari's had tremendous straight line speed. Normally we're used to seeing this BMW Williams with the top speeds all around the circuit, but Ferrari have matched them and beaten them all weekend, and we saw it again in the warm-up, although it did appear that Montoya had taken some wing off in an attempt to be as fast as the Ferraris, and here they're dropping Michael Schumacher now. Michael Schumacher's fallen 1.7 seconds behind Montoya, so Barrichello from Montoya, Michael Schumacher, Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher, Coulthard, Heidfeld, Fisichella, Trulli and Button then up in the top 10.
Well, last year most of the front runners stopped only once. We saw Ralf Schumacher coming in on lap 51. We saw Michael Schumacher coming on lap 46. And a couple of two-stoppers. There was the Jaguars and the Arrows last year. Now we expect to see them to do the same thing. Clearly Rubens Barrichello is on some kind of similar strategy, running lighter. But the crucial factor here, if Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya are both running a one-stop fuel load, the Ferrari fuel tank is smaller than the Williams. Not a lot in it, but usually about 3 or 4 laps of fuel less will go into the Ferrari than will go into the Williams. It could be significant later in the race.
Yes, and I think you can also assume, given recent form, that the 4th and 6th place McLarens of Raikkonen and Coulthard will also be very fat on fuel. They'll go a long way into this race before they stop. right at the moment, Barrichello probably not getting away from Montoya in the way that it looked as if he could, by the fact he passed him so easily.
Well, you remember, it was Brazil, I believe, where we thought Montoya was on a two-stop, the way he breezed past Michael Schumacher, and it turned out he was, in fact, actually on a one. He seems able to respond and get enormous speed out of the car to extract it. At the moment, his lap times no more than 2 or 3/10 of a second slower, and a great battle there between the Jordan and the BAR.
That's Sato then and Panis. They're fighting as if it's the last lap of a Grand Prix, back there in 13th and 14th, both, of course, with the Honda engine, and it has to be said, both Honda teams, Jordan and BAR, going much better this weekend. That's good news.
Jenson Button also improving, currently in 10th place, so it's been a good start for the two Renault cars. Trulli 9th and Button in 10th. Villeneuve is in 11th place. He's dropped down a couple of spots. And we've seen the Toyota, as Martin's saying, up in 12th, so they're attacking from the start. Clearly, a real mishmash of strategies in the midfield. We must keep an eye on that midfield battle, because, like I was saying earlier on, last year we only had 9 finishers here, and really, it can come from anywhere in the field. If you're in the midfield, you've got a good chance of points in the Canadian Grand Prix.
Absolutely, it's a super hot pace, James. They're immediately down into the 1:17s, the first two runners, and that's approaching the lap record of the circuit already. Yes, it is best part of 70 metres shorter, but nonetheless so early in the race with such a heavy fuel load. This is a very hot pace.
Well, the computer models that the teams have tell them that 2 stops is about 20 seconds faster than 1 stop around here, but the big risk is a safety car. If you get a safety car situation, you are in big trouble on a 2-stop strategy, as one of the Jaguars cuts through and takes the path of least resistance. De La Rosa having an eventful afternoon, hit the wall at the start, back out there having prepared the puncture and still in 22nd place.
Yes, I'm hearing from our pit crew that apparently De La Rosa had contact with McNish and then went into the wall, so that's why he pitted at the end of the first lap, and he's fighting with himself right to the back and still managing to go off. So as you said, miserable start for him. Panis and Sato then fighting with Massa just behind them. That's 13th, 14th and 15th, but this is the front three. Barrichello 1.4 ahead of Montoya, who's 2.3 ahead then of Michael Schumacher, but they're lapping in similar lap times until you get down to Raikkonen, who's a full 1 and a bit seconds away. So these three beginning to pull away at the front end. Is that a pass? Is that Salo? Surely the man that made the best start of anybody in this Grand Prix. Passing Villeneuve for 11th place. Yes, it is.
Yes, Salo's done very well off the start. Qualified down in 18th place, now up to 12th and attacking hard in the Toyota.
You've got to assume then that Toyota's on a 2-stop, lighter fuel load. He's managed to come out of turn 9, get up alongside Villeneuve. Villeneuve didn't put up too much of a fight. Good friends, those two, Salo and Villeneuve, and they share spaces all around the European Grand Prix with their campers next door to each other. In the Coulthard's in that little camp as well, and they're all quite good mates.
They are indeed. They also have a competition between them to who can have the most outrageous pickup truck. And Salo has one over in Finland, which has 1,000 horsepower. Villeneuve has yet to match it.
And we think Sato has also taken Panis for that 13th place. Yes, indeed he has. We were watching that fight earlier on. So plenty of action then in the second half of the field, James, but at the front it's very much status quo. Barrichello's lead, 1.5 seconds now. Michael Schumacher continues to fall off the back of those leading two by some 3/4 of a second per lap.
Well, Montoya just cut right across the chicane, made a bit of a mistake there and cut across the chicane, across the start-finish line. You're looking now at the battle between Kimi Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. Raikkonen 4th, running very strongly on a track where he finished well here last year, and Ralf Schumacher in 5th place. And well, if Raikkonen can finish where he is now, he'll match what he achieved last year in 4th place.
I think, and as I'm watching out of the window, half the field are cutting across the escape road down here at the last chicane. I think Barrichello's just been given the release. I think he's been told to go, because Michael's falling back. Barrichello's just popped a lap in, a full second faster than anybody else in the field, and that's his teammate Michael Schumacher, and a second and a half faster than the non-Ferrari competitors at least. And suddenly I think Barrichello's been released into, right, go and maximise your advantage now. I don't think he can come into play and help Michael too much.
No, I think obviously the pace of Montoya in 2nd place is greater than Ferrari were perhaps imagining as we look at a replay of Villeneuve and Sato.
So that's Sato taking 12. That's 2 cars he's passed in the last 2 laps then. Both of them BAR, so also Sato then you would assume is on a 2-stop lighter fuel. And does Villeneuve get back at him? In fact, Sato looks like he blended out of the throttle. He probably felt he'd overtaken through the chicane, which in fact he didn't, but he probably felt he'd gained an advantage, and to avoid being penalised with a drive-through, he got off the throttle and let Villeneuve back through again.
Well, may have had a note from the team to do so over the radio, or it may have been his own initiative. If it was his own initiative, it was extraordinarily generous. Lap 9 then, Barrichello leading Montoya by 3.3 seconds. Michael Schumacher dropping back a little bit now. He's 5.6 seconds behind his teammate. Raikkonen 4th, 12.5 seconds behind Barrichello. Then Ralf Schumacher, Coulthard, Heidfeld in 7th place. 8 is Fisichella, 9th is Trulli, and 10th still the Renault of Jenson Button.
Welcome back to the Canadian Grand Prix, and AJ, Jacques Villeneuve, his home Grand Prix qualified 9th, out.
Yeah, it's an understatement to say it's a shame. It's a shame to drop out of any Grand Prix, but to drop out of your home Grand Prix must have been a real stinger for him, because they have improved that BAR. It's a different specification. He qualified 9th and he did raise the hopes of the locals, but unfortunately, whoops, Ralph getting a bit untidy there. As indeed Jaguar, they've just moved into their new wind tunnel down the road. They're starting to utilise that of about a week ago. They've got a new aero kit, and look out for really bigger things for the British Grand Prix for them.
Back to the boys.
The thing is that every other Michelin runner is on the softer tyre, so you would imagine as they get further and further into this stint, Raikkonen will come under increasing pressure, and that then I think is a replay of Villeneuve getting out of the throttle and parking the car before he goes into that sort of tunnel effect of that final straight where the cars are doing over 200 miles an hour. But Montoya has managed to stabilise again now, that gap at the front, James. 3.5 seconds. Barrichello put a spurt on. There he is. And Montoya seemed to just have to react to it, because pulled out that lead. If Barrichello can keep pulling those out through the afternoon, we may see his first Grand Prix win of the season. But you would have to assume that Rubens will pit earlier than any of the other front runners.
Well, the ease with which he breezed past Montoya at the beginning of the race would certainly suggest that he's carrying less fuel, but the way Montoya has pegged him for pace, the two are more or less matching each other on lap times, no more than a couple of tenths between them lap after lap. Rubens Barrichello just gone fastest lap of the race so far on lap 13, a 1:17.1, but Montoya just a couple of tenths slower.
Safety car is standing by. We've got car 3 has gone off the track according to the computer. There is a safety car standing by, and
David Coulthard.
I don't understand. We haven't seen any reason. We think Coulthard has possibly stopped, and maybe they want to recover that car of Villeneuve. That's where the yellow flags are waving still, where they're trying to get that stricken BAR Honda Villeneuve off the side of the road. Then there's not much space, but he appeared to park it very sensibly, didn't he?
I think what they were saying on the message board is that car 3 went off the track and continued. That's David Coulthard, so he's clearly had some sort of straight lining, a corner, or he's had a bit of a spin. It's not related to the safety car issue. So Coulthard's still running strongly in 6th place, but the safety car is standing by in case the marshals want to move the car of Jacques Villeneuve, which is right on the exit of a very fast part of the circuit after the hairpin bend. We'll see it in a moment.
That'll destroy a few strategies this afternoon, James, if they all get moved up back into line again. And if you were running late, you've lost all your advantage, of course. And this was a replay earlier on. Raikkonen got a bit late into turn 1, and Ralph it does happen, you kind of get sucked into somebody else's incident when you're travelling so closely. But Ralph really does appear to have the legs, doesn't he, of the McLaren. Finding a way past is another thing, but I think his harder tyres will pay big dividends as we go further into this Grand Prix.
Sure they will. Ralf Schumacher saying yesterday, very interestingly in his press briefing after qualifying, that he and Montoya are becoming closer and closer to each other, and Montoya backed it up in his briefing a bit later on in the afternoon. They're working very well together, they're very close together, and the safety car has been deployed. Now, as Martin was saying, that's going to mess up a few strategies, and the ones it'll most mess up are the two stoppers.
Yes, it will. They wanted to sprint away, use their light fuel load, and of course any advantage they've eked out earlier on in the Grand Prix they're going to have to give away behind the safety car. They appear, and Montoya pits, so Williams choosing to use this as an opportunity. Montoya knows the American system. Pit at the earliest opportunity if you're in a fuel window. So Montoya straight into the pits then it'll be an unscheduled stop, but a tactical stop rather than a problem. So there you're watching Montoya. He would have surprised his mechanics, I've no doubt about that, and tanked it right up, I would imagine, James. Will he be able to go to the end of the Grand Prix? We're on lap 15 of the Grand Prix at this time, so I wonder if that would make the difference. But if not, he's got to carry a humongous amount of fuel with him, hasn't he?
Well, clearly they feel that he can do that as he makes his exit out onto the track. He took on a lot more fuel than the stopwatch suggested, as one of the Jordans also comes into the pits to make a tactical pit stop under this safety car period. Well, we were talking at the start of how we'd had 5 safety cars in the last 6 years. Make that 6 out of 7.
So effectively it's a free stop, isn't it, in some ways, because you catch the back of the pack up again. We see the Jordan rejoining of Sato, so you don't lose any time getting down the pit lane, stopping with your crew. But what you do lose is track position, and what Montoya's done pays big dividends if you're the first to pit, because if everybody pits as well, you end up back at the front of the snake again. Louise is in the pits with Jacques Villeneuve.
Jacques, first man out of the race, obviously some kind of technical problem, was it?
Yeah, just had to stop, probably an engine failure, but you never know, it could be something else.
Big disappointment, because it's been a pretty positive weekend up to now for the team.
It was yesterday in qualifying, but in warm-up we weren't competitive, and we saw it in the race. We weren't competitive in the race.
Thanks, Jacques.
Well, Jacques has been pretty damn beat all weekend, hasn't he? Saying, yeah, the new car's not bad, it'll just get me from 14th to 12th on the grid. In fact, he did better than that, but he wasn't very complimentary about the new engine he tested last week at Silverstone either. So, and that was a very downbeat local hero, wasn't it? But Montoya's strategy, James, I can't quite see the logic in it at the moment.
No, it's an interesting one, because we've only done 15 laps of this race. He's obviously he knows that it's not going to be a long safety car period. It's not going to take too long to clear an undamaged car off the racetrack. It's not like we've had a substantial incident here as one of the Arrows team dives into the pits. That's Enrique Benoldi from 14th place. I can't see that he's burned off enough fuel yet to be able to put enough fuel in here to take him to the finish.
No, I agree with you. I think the 2 stoppers may as well. Surely they're into a window of opportunity to make a pit stop. But of course that releases Michael Schumacher nicely. So you've got a 1-2 for Ferrari at the moment. Raikkonen up to 3rd, Ralf Schumacher 4th. Then Montoya's slotted back in somehow in 5th, heads in the pits.
Martin, it kind of makes sense to me. I think I might have a theory for you as to explaining Montoya's strategy. Rubens wasn't getting away from Montoya as fast as he should have, really. If Montoya would have known that Rubens would have to go 2-stop, because Rubens, of course, is on the soft Bridgestone tyres, there is a chance that Montoya was also running light too. Now he's put a fair bit of fuel in, but he didn't change the tyres because he is on the hard Michelins. Now, will he need to stop again? That's the big question. I think he might make it through until lap 55, maybe lap 60, and then a splash and dash at the end. What about that?
It's possible that Montoya was on a 2-stopper, in which case he should have been travelling faster than he was. But he'll certainly be completely out of sequence now, won't he?
He will. I wonder if Ted saw them do anything else to the car. Perhaps he picked up a sort of sweet wrapper or a plastic bag in his airbox that was in his radiators. We've seen that before here in Montreal, with the crowd so close to the track. Sometimes sweet wrappers, crisp packets get down onto the track into the radiators and cause the temperatures to go through the roof. Sometimes it's an opportunity to take that out, but certainly in terms of the fuel loads he's been using, it's difficult to see how he can make this work without stopping again.
Yes, and he's certainly, I mean, he was in the pits a long time. We only cut to him after he'd come to a halt, and it appeared as if he'd surprised his mechanics, but it was quite a long stop. The good news for Montoya is that despite all of that, he's still only back to 5th position, so that actually worked out quite nicely in terms of track position.
Yes, one of the things that the strategists from the leading teams have noticed in the 2002 season is that after a short period of time, 15, 16 laps of a Grand Prix these days, there is quite a substantial gap between them and the midfielders, the Fisichellas, the Panises and Villeneuves of this world, as Benoldi makes his 2nd consecutive stop, shaking his head. So whatever is wrong with that Arrows car, he's not at all pleased. It's something to do with the right rear corner. and they're having a good look at the suspension before putting the wheel on. Perhaps he didn't feel the wheel had been attached properly.
No, maybe the gunman on that side was not happy, and so they pulled him back in. Quite clearly there is a problem. There's some pegs there that the wheel has to go on. Often when wheels are brand new, they just won't fit on those pegs. But it does appear to be a major gremlin there. They should probably try another wheel, I would have thought, because if they don't go on cleanly, often it's quite a fettling job to get them to fit.
So we've had a lap and a half now under the safety car. Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, Raikkonen promoted to third by that pit stop of Juan Montoya's. Ralf Schumacher up to fourth. Montoya slotted in fifth. Coulthard will restart in sixth. And we believe he's carrying a lot of fuel as Bernoldi prepares to leave the pits. And off he goes. Heidfeld is still running in seventh place in the Sauber, eighth Fisichella, ninth Trulli, and 10th Mika Salo. But as Martin was saying, the people like Salo who are on a two-stopper, they're not benefiting from this too much, this safety car period.
Well, unless they pitted and used this as their first pit stop and lost very little track time. So I'm surprised we haven't seen really more cars. We've seen Montoya, Sato, Bernoldi and Della Rosa. Della Rosa was earlier in the race anyway, so only 3 cars chose to use that opportunity to refuel, and it looks like we're getting ready to go again. And Raikkonen has been caught out then. He's been caught absolutely asleep. He should have been on the back of Michael Schumacher's gearbox and wasn't. So the 2 Ferraris easily then first and second across the line.
Well, the indication that the safety car is pulling out is that its lights go up, and clearly that was quite a late indication. But the Ferraris were well and truly up to speed. Raikkonen, as Martin was saying, lost the advantage. A little bit of a lock-up there from Juan Montoya. He's now behind his teammate Ralf Schumacher. We've seen last season the Williams team asking Ralf Schumacher to let Montoya through when they were on different strategies, and both times in the summer of last year, French Grand Prix and Silverstone, Ralf Schumacher refused to do so. Now one wonders whether we might see a little bit of that this afternoon. Well,
surely though, Montoya's got more fuel on board than Ralf Schumacher at this point, having tanked up. But, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see now what Montoya's pace is and if he can stay in touch with Ralf. Bernoldi then still got some kind of problem. You'd have to assume it's once again with that right rear installation, and maybe they've lost the drive pegs on that side, something like that.
Bernoldi only had one finish so far in the 2002 season, so it's really been tough for him. Yet another retirement for the young Brazilian from Curitiba.
I think the 2 Williams drivers will be cursing Raikkonen for... and look, Ralf went straight across the chicane, and Montoya is going to get a run at him. Ralf also getting a run at Raikkonen. Did Ralf Schumacher jump the chicane? And look, Montoya got the pair of them. What is Raikkonen doing? That's amazing. So Montoya then absolutely gifted third position back.
Yes, incredible development here in Montreal, as Ralf Schumacher clearly knew he couldn't take advantage of having cut across the chicane. Raikkonen got confused by the whole thing, and Montoya, well, we said 2 weeks ago in Monaco, he's a man who knows an opportunity when he sees it, and he knows how to grab it. Look at this.
And it was Montoya that got the run, but why did Ralf Schumacher... I'd like to go a little bit further back than that. I think Ralf missed his braking point and went straight across the chicane. And yes, we're almost certain that he did. So Ralf got a run at Raikkonen. Raikkonen seemed to be slow down the straight, and Montoya just picked the pair of them off. Raikkonen seemed to hesitate, didn't he, James, going into turn 1, and almost lost 2 places. But Ralf then has... now obviously fallen back behind Raikkonen. Montoya just easily slipping past a pair of them with a big smile on his face, I'm sure.
Very interesting indeed. I wonder if Ralf Schumacher has some kind of problem with his braking, because he saw him also getting a little bit leery later on in the lap.
Here we go.
Here it is again.
Yes, it was Ralf then went across the green painted tarmac, and he didn't know what to do at that point. I can't pass him, I'll get penalised, but I don't want Montoya past me. Ralf really between rock and a hard place there, and now he's trying to go around the outside of Raikkonen this time. Quite clearly the Williams have a lot more pace at this stage of the Grand Prix. I just saw our race leader Rubens Barrichello dart across the runoff area here in the final chicane as well on the previous lap, James, so he's pretty much on it. Michael Schumacher just 1.2 seconds behind him in second place. But it's Montoya, Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher now that are doing all the racing.
Well, I said before that it's usually an eventful race here in Montreal. I wasn't kidding. We saw off the start line the two Ferraris' tactical switch as Michael Schumacher let Rubens Barrichello through into second place. Juan Montoya took the lead. We've had a safety car period. Montoya dived into the pits in order to make a curious and yet to be explained pit stop. He's rejoined down in 5th place, and then this extraordinary situation where Ralf Schumacher and Kimi Räikkönen got caught up with each other, and Montoya dived down the inside of them and has taken back 3rd place. This is lap 20.
Well, that's played beautifully into Montoya's hands, hasn't it? He got back onto the track in 5th. Coulthard had a bit of an off, so that enabled Montoya to come back and only fall down to 5th place. And here we're going to see a replay. Räikkönen's covering his bases up the inside of turn 1, and Ralf says, I'll have a look down the outside then. But I don't think there's ever going to be quite enough room around there, Ralf. Ted's down in the pits.
I've been into the Williams garage, Martin, and it was a planned stop. What they did was come up with a contingency plan if there was a safety car in this race. Now, of course there was, so that plan B did come into operation, and that move through the chicane has made that strategy for Montoya even sweeter.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's his lucky day today, but I'm still I'm very impressed if they guesstimated a safety car on lap 15 of this Grand Prix. On lap 1, 2, 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah, indeed. There's certainly a window during a race when a pit stop might be appropriate if there were a safety car, but 15 laps into a Grand Prix, unless something strange was happening with the tyres, seems a little early, but nevertheless Williams clearly on top of the game strategy-wise. Sam Michael down there, young Australian engineer who used to look after Heinz-Harald Frentzen when he was at Jordan, engineered him to those Grand Prix victories in '99 for the Jordan team. He switched over to Williams and is now in charge of the whole engineering side of things and all of the strategies. It will have been his decision to bring Montoya in. He's vying with Ross Brawn for the chief strategist title in Formula One.
Benoldi out. The team is saying a broken suspension is why Enrico Benoldi cruised into his pit, and we saw them trying to refit his right rear tyre a couple of times. A 1:16.1, that smashes the lap record of 1:17.2. Of course, still remembering the track's a little bit shorter this year, just under 70 metres shorter.
Lovely view there at the top of your screens a moment ago of the St Lawrence Seaway. This track's surrounded by water on both sides. We've got the Seaway and the big suspension bridge back into the centre of Montreal, which is about 15 minutes away. And on the other side we have the Olympic rowing basin, where back in 1996, when this city hosted the Olympics, they had the rowing event. So a tremendously characterful circuit, this beautiful parkland everywhere. People have been having picnics, enjoying themselves, walking around, and they are being treated to a fantastic Grand Prix here this afternoon. This is lap 22. Rubens Barrichello is 2.5 seconds ahead of his teammate Michael Schumacher. Juan Montoya is a fighting 3rd place. Räikkönen's 4th. 5th is Ralf Schumacher, and 6th still the 2nd McLaren of David Coulthard.
Not really looked into the pits, I think, for commentary, but he's waving the red and yellow striped flag, meaning the track is slippery, and he seems to have a constant job. We've now got a marshal on the racetrack picking up pieces of mud and grass, and finally he's put his flag away. So the drivers then all getting a warning signal that the track is slippery. In fact, the bit they were using was not, but anyway.
Barrichello edging away from Michael Schumacher. We had a suspicion that they were on different strategies. This is now lap 25, and this is right in the heart of two-stop territory. This is where they would be making their first stop, although we've had a safety car for 3 laps, which will have eked it out a little bit more. So certainly sometime in the next 3 or 4 laps, we'd expect to see the two-stoppers making their first pit visit.
Yes, they'd save about a lap of fuel in that amount of safety car time, James, so they can go just that little bit further.
There's Juan Montoya in 3rd place, the pole sitter for this race. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of the battle for 4th, and this is a terrific scrap going on here between Trulli, Massa, Salo, who dives into the pits from 10th place, and Jenson Button involved in that as well.
Just 50 miles an hour speed limit in the pits, and as we said earlier on, I'm surprised Salo didn't make a stop. It was quite clear the way he was sprinting through the field that he was on a lighter fuel load. Very surprised they didn't choose to stop him under that safety car procedure, James.
Well, they are in their first year of Formula One. They're learning the ropes. There still are only 3 people in that team who've ever worked in Formula One before. which is astonishing with a workforce of over 400 people. But the Ferrari pit crew, we're being told by our F1 ITV crew, are getting ready with tyres. It presumably is for Rubens Barrichello, the race leader. He's certainly pushing very, very hard at the moment. So into the pits goes the race leader, Rubens Barrichello. And this is kind of what we expected to see.
It is indeed, but it says how fast Michael is. And isn't Montoya looking in fantastic shape now, having made that early pit stop, been given what was then third place. Barrichello probably hadn't stretched as much of a lead as I expected him to have done so. Montoya's gone past us. Montoya's just slipping back a little bit into, he's 11.4 seconds behind Michael. Look at them getting all of it, looks like confetti out of the side pods of that Ferrari. Quite clearly, Barrichello's car running a little hot.
Yes, and it obviously took longer than they expected. It should have taken around 8 seconds for him to come out, instead of which he filters back in again. Around about, I think, 7th place, Rubens Barrichello. I'll be a bit disappointed about that. He's behind David Coulthard, who was in 6th, so yes, Barrichello is now going to be 5th or 6th place anyway, waiting to see where he is exactly on the track as the computer shakes out, but that didn't quite work out the way he wanted. It's quite close between all those guys. He was trying to fillet himself back in just in front of them, and it didn't quite work out for him.
Yes, he hadn't built enough of a lead, considering then how little fuel he got on board. This then remains the fight for what is currently 3rd and 4th. Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. McNish takes to the pit lane as well in the second Toyota. He was 14th last time around. Michael Schumacher absolutely on the ragged edge, coming through that final chicane right in front of our commentary box. Goes over the line on a 1:16.6. He's trying to put a massive spurt in now. So how long will it be before? And there's a Renault tagging the wall.
Yeah, that looked like Jenson Button. He had Felipe Massa behind him. It looked like he tacked him against the wall. We believe it's a couple of laps ago, that replay. So Jenson Button is still on the track. He's in 10th place, and his lap times are still representative. So it doesn't look as though there's been too much damage for Jenson Button, but it's all going off here now in Montreal. There's action everywhere in the field. Pit stop action, a very exciting time.
Barrichello did come out just behind Coulthard. He is 1/10 of a second behind him as they went over the line. So Barrichello really putting David Coulthard under pressure for 5th and 6th place.
Yeah, so not quite what he had in mind. He would like to have got out in front of David Coulthard, no doubt. Just waiting to see who else was on a two-stopper. We've had visits from, well, we know about Montoya. That was much earlier on. Rubens Barrichello we've just seen. Sato, Salo as well, and De La Rosa. So not as many people doing twos today as we perhaps would have expected.
Let's wait and see. Both Toyotas then and Rubens Barrichello at the moment appear to be the only clear two stoppers. Michael Schumacher leads by 12.8 seconds and is pulling a lot of time out of Montoya. Montoya is not at all fast for some reason at this stage of the Grand Prix. 3rd then is Raikkonen. 4th, Ralf Schumacher. 5th, David Coulthard. And just behind him, as you can see, Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, he's got a 12.14 now in his second lead. I was going to say 12, but it is now 14. 2 seconds Michael Schumacher took out of Juan Montoya on that last lap. He's pushing very, very hard indeed. And you need around about 25 seconds here in Montreal of a lead in order to be able to make a pit stop and rejoin in front of the guy behind you. Any less than that and you're in dangerous territory. So Michael Schumacher pushing very, very hard indeed. They're on completely different race strategies, these two cars.
Yes, and remember we said earlier on in the programme that you really get penalised with a safety car when there's a two-stopper, and this is what's happening to Rubens Barrichello. If you're a two-stopper, this is what's happening to Barrichello. He's now tucked up behind a one-stopping Coulthard. He's lost track position. All the advantage he built up with his lighter car just evaporates behind the safety car, and then you pay the penalty for the rest of the afternoon. Montoya then, your second-place man, currently on his fastest and personal best 1st and 2nd sectors. He's having to try to respond to Michael Schumacher scampering away at the front. The lead, 14.2, breaks at 105 metres, glances it nicely across, and look, way away from the curb, not using all the track at all there, Montoya. And I wonder if he's got some little gremlins at the moment, because he's not fast at all. And look, Raikkonen just easing quickly up to the back there of Montoya. Montoya may have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, well, we've seen the tyres come and go in races this season. Certainly David Coulthard's tyres in Monaco. Do you remember 2 weeks ago when they went off for several laps? But we're quite late into the race here for that to be happening. We heard from Ted in the pits earlier that, in fact, Montoya didn't change his tyres when he made that stop on lap 15, so perhaps that was not the right move. Perhaps he's got some kind of problem, but no doubt at all about it. Kimi Räikkönen and Ralf Schumacher are now closing in on the back of Montoya, who's in second place, 15 seconds now behind the race leader, Michael Schumacher. Very tense at the front.
But it was strange, wasn't it? Because Montoya, I said, did those two personal best, first and second sector, and then came out of the last chicane really out of sorts, not fast at all, not as Michael Schumacher did then, using all the road available. And Montoya then being caught on this lap as well by Räikkönen and teammate Ralf Schumacher by best part of half a second. So Montoya without any speed. Normally though, those Michelins, the further they run them, the nearer they become to slicks, they seem to go faster and faster.
Well, at the moment, Montoya's giving away about a second and a half a lap to Michael Schumacher. He can't afford to do that for too much longer. The BMW Williams driver, who sat on pole position, got the lead off the start line. We had a tactical switch between Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, because Barrichello was on a lighter fuel load. He led him through at the start, and then we had a safety car period in which Montoya put in a real class move shortly after that to get himself past Ralf Schumacher and Kimi Räikkönen.
And this is why then Montoya did not use all the track. He used too much on the way in and lost a lot of time, and that's where that lap went to pot. That is Frentzen in the pits. He was running around in 17th, and he's got a long stop as well. We've already seen his teammate drop out of the race just after a pit stop. What is going on? We can't see because there's somebody in the way. So they released Frentzen, and they're really struggling to get it away, but does continue down the pit lane.
Yep, Frentzen will rejoin, currently lying in 18th place. And it's been a tough weekend for the whole of the Orange Arrows team, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in particular qualifying way down the grid. No particular explanation given by the team, just not quick enough. De La Rosa has had an eventful afternoon. Here he is again, looking like he's crawling round at the back in 20th place, and I think he's lost time. He's definitely heading for retirement.
Well, that's surprising, isn't it? I would have expected, although he's taken on some fuel, I would have expected Barrichello to really be pushing Coulthard quite hard. But for some reason, and there then is the stricken Jaguar, for some reason Barrichello not showing anything like the kind of pace he was earlier in the Grand Prix. Montoya then has got it back together again. Strange how those Michelins just seem to disappear. As you said earlier, Coulthard in Monaco dropped 4 seconds a lap sometimes, and waited for them to come back to him, and maybe Montoya's just gone through that zone.
A little bit unfortunate that Pedro de la Rosa didn't spot the gap in the Armco barrier there, that he could pull the car back through, and one hopes he hasn't left it parked in a dangerous place. It's just there to the left under the bridge, you can see, so that shouldn't need a safety car to clear it. We're hearing that a drive-through penalty for car number 24 is to be applied, speeding in the pit lane. It's Mika Salo in the Toyota, so rotten luck for the Finnish veteran, who was running in 10th place before he made his first pit stop. He's going to have to do a drive-through penalty.
So we're on lap 33 then, James, approaching half distance. Michael Schumacher not felt the need to pit yet, and still taking best part of a second a lap out of his pursuers. So Schumacher with an 18.5 second lead at this stage of the Grand Prix. Suddenly it's looking even better.
Yeah, well, the pace he showed this morning in the warm-up, in fact both Ferraris showed, certainly indicated they were going to be quick this afternoon in Montreal. They lost out yesterday to Williams as Salo comes in for that drive-through penalty. It's a new penalty this season, so obviously less severe than a 10-second stop and go, but nevertheless it's been used a few times. Montoya felt the thick end of it earlier in the season, and Mika Salo feels the thick end of it here today.
They've waved yellow flag there as they're still trying to recover that Jaguar on the top left of your screen. And providing they've got it in neutral, I agree with you, James, it should be recoverable there, but at the moment it's still on the side of the racetrack.
Lap 33 then, you can see the dust and the dirt and the debris that's kicked up when they hit the brakes, coming down from around 170 odd miles an hour down to 40. One of the engineers was saying the other day that actually some of the speeds through the apexes of the corners here in Canada are actually slower than they are in Monte Carlo, but hugely heavy on the brakes, very, very tough on the cars, this racetrack, and you can see the dust and the debris in the air as Kimi Räikkönen and Ralf Schumacher continue to fight. Last year, Ralf Schumacher was fighting against his brother. This year, for the win. This year, it's against Räikkönen for third place.
Well, bizarre. I mean, Montoya's now started to pull away quite comfortably from these two again, and you'd have to really wonder why. We saw him make a mistake in the last chicane, but he had 3 or 4 laps, didn't he, where he lost an awful lot of pace and ground, but suddenly Montoya right back on it again, but still a second lap slower than Michael Schumacher, your leader.
We're hearing from our F1 ITV pit crew that Montoya did change the rear tyres at that pit stop on lap 16, but not the front, so perhaps they were just behaving differently for a phase. Who knows what the difficulty was of Montoya, but certainly he's back on the pace now, although he is a second a lap at the moment, still slower than Michael Schumacher, the race leader, who has now almost a 20-second advantage over him. And remember what I was saying before, he needs 25 seconds in order to be able to pit and rejoin still in front.
Does that 25 seconds, in your view, include the much faster pit exit? Is that the very latest data? Sounds about right, James. So Michael Schumacher then beginning to home in on a pit stop in his pocket type scenario, so it doesn't matter what strategy anybody else is on.
David Coulthard there, winner 2 weeks ago in Monte Carlo. Never been on the podium here in Montreal though, and at the moment he's running in 5th place. Long way to go yet, just approaching half distance now. This is lap 35 of this 71 lap Canadian Grand Prix, and David last week went to New York on his way over here, so we're just over 200 miles north of New York here in Montreal, and did a number of promotional events and was amazed, he was saying, by how warm a reception he got and how much they were marketing him as the Monaco Grand Prix winner, and apparently it seemed to mean a lot to the people of New York.
Well, the Americans they're quite insular, they have tremendous level of sport, don't they, with basketball and baseball, ice hockey and all that kind of thing. But the one thing they do recognise in the world of motorsport is obviously the Indy 500, the Le Mans 24 Hours and the Monaco Grand Prix. So it doesn't surprise me in a way, but there's not a huge following over here for Formula One. Canada there is, North America itself not.
Coulthard piles on the power and down the back straightaway. Barrichello behind him still, the second of the 2 Ferraris, having made the first of his pit stops for the afternoon and lost quite a bit of ground. The battle continues to rage here for 3rd place between Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. Well, Raikkonen had a podium in the first Grand Prix of the season in Australia, and since then it's been pretty slim pickings for the 22-year-old Finn. He's had 4 straight retirements and only 1 points finish of the season, which was that one where he got the podium in Australia, so he's due a result, Kimi Raikkonen.
I think he's driven well there. He was very strong here last year for Sauber too. I think it'll be a frustrated Ralf Schumacher that's behind him at the moment. There were a couple of opportunities that he could have taken earlier on, but Ralf then still now down there in 4th place. Not one of his finest afternoons, I don't think. Schumacher leads by 21.2 seconds from Montoya. Raikkonen 4.4 seconds behind Montoya. Ralf Schumacher in his slipstream. Coulthard a further 5 seconds down the road. Barrichello holding station 2.5 seconds behind Coulthard in 6th.
It's often said of Ralf Schumacher, isn't it, that he's not the world's greatest overtaker. He's won 4 Grand Prix in his career, and he's not had to pass anyone in order to achieve that. They've all been achieved by passing someone in the pits and that kind of thing. And certainly a very aggressive racing driver, very capable indeed. But at the moment, he's not even close enough to Kimi Raikkonen to have a go at passing him, let alone make that move.
Absolutely. It's not a classic day for the Brits, is it? Coulthard has just done his personal best lap of the race. He's in the 1:16, so his car's coming to him. And we know that both McLarens tend to run a lot of fuel at the start of the race, so that's coming a bit nicer for him. That then is Jenson Button pitting. Is that a scheduled stop? The tyres are ready, so it would appear so. I've seen him tag the wall at least twice outside our commentary box window here in that final chicane. So the Brits then, Coulthard is 5th. Button has now slipped back to 14th, so McNish is 13th. Button goes out, he's 15th, 16th, he's just tumbling down the computer as the other cars pass him. So Jenson Button then rejoins, it appears, in 17th position.
Well, he's been letting it all hang out, Jenson Button. Clipping the wall, as Martin was saying. That stop on lap 38 is neither fish nor fowl. It's neither a 1-stop or 2-stop. It's a very early 1-stop, possibly, as Michael Schumacher carves his way through past him. Fastest lap to the German, chasing Ferrari's 150th Grand Prix victory. What a milestone that would be if Schumacher can bring it home It would be his 6th win of the season, but more significantly, the PR machine would roll from Montreal to Melbourne. You'd hear about it.
Got a 15.9, James. That's 2/10 from last year's pole position. That's a sensational race time. And no sign of any Ferrari mechanics out into the pit lane. Heidfeld pits from what was 7th. He's already down to 9th as cars pass the start-finish line. Car's a bit lopsided, it appears, as they've got it up there, but a steady pit stop really for Heidfeld, and a long time to get that fuel hose out. Not a good stop from the Sauber team.
No, fuel hose seemed to get stuck, but did you see all that white stuff that's been around throughout this race? Michael Schumacher, though, dives into the pits. He's got Alex Young in front of him, and Young will turn immediately out of his way as he does into the Minardi garage, and now he just has to come down the lane. 23.9 seconds he had over Montoya. Is it going to be enough, Ted?
Well, that's the big question, of course. Michael Schumacher hits his marks very well. The Bridgestone tyres come off. Now the new ones are on. The fuel hose is on okay. Oh, no, actually, there is a delay. There is a delay. They had the same problem with getting the fuel hose on Barrichello's car. They're a bit slow getting it on Michael's. A few shake of the heads at Ferrari. Oh, that's a bit of a disaster.
I think they lost most time cleaning out his radiator ducts as well there, Ted, so that seemed to be the major problem. As with Barrichello, a slow stop for him. And where has Michael rejoined the race? It is just in front of Coulthard, isn't it?
Well, it's difficult to tell. Montoya is certainly leading this race again. The question mark is, did Michael get out in front of Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher? We believe that he did, but we'll see it with our own eyes in a minute. Yes, he did. Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher in the background. I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with Ted, rather. That looked to me like the fuel hose was on deliberately for a long time. We've seen Juan Montoya roll the dice early on and take a very long stop. It didn't look like to me like they were trying to pull it off. It looked to me like they were putting fuel in, and the delay, if there was one, was getting that white, funny, fluffy stuff that we've seen, tree blossom or whatever it is, that's been hanging around all day, getting it out the radiators. There it is. Look, it's like a wedding, isn't it? Confetti everywhere.
Absolutely, I agree. I think they were just fueling it right to the end of the Grand Prix. So Michael did get back onto the track just ahead of an important and crucial situation, ahead of this man Raikkonen and his everlasting pursuer Ralf Schumacher. So they knew, Ferrari knew they had an amount of time to clear those side pods. It's a procedural thing really. If they've got the time to do it, they know how long it'll take for every 13 litres of fuel. It's a second to wash through those enormous pipes, get into the car. So a cleverly timed situation there, but Montoya's now really got to get the hammer down, James, because we've seen how fast that Ferrari is.
There's a replay. You could see Montoya going flashing through on the left. Michael Schumacher has to get his way around Young. That's an indication of how slow the stop was, that Young had travelled all the way down. And Michael Schumacher had to go round him in this huge amount of traffic that he managed to just get out in front of. That would have hurt him if he got stuck in that, wouldn't it?
Yes, well, they pitted together and they left the pits together, so it must have taken ultimately the same amount of time, mustn't it? So Heidfeld, then, we're seeing from the computer, is under investigation by the stewards for an incident. I would assume Heidfeld's been down the pits. Maybe he's been speeding in the pit lane.
Well, a very interesting turnaround here in Montreal. This is lap 40. 31 laps to go. We're expecting to see all of the one-stoppers make their pit stops. That's these guys here, Kimi Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. They will drop back. Michael Schumacher is in the box seats compared to those guys. But where is he relative to Juan Montoya? Is it possible that Montoya could have put enough fuel in the car when he made his stop under the safety car period back? Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Lap 16 it was. It's hard to see how he could have done that. But if he has, he's laughing. He's now 3.9 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. And that's a bit early, really, for Ferrari to bring Schumacher in, around about lap 38. So I think they may have gambled on a bit of a flexible strategy today, and it may not have worked. Look at all the fluff coming out. It's like it's been in a drying machine.
Quite breezy out there, isn't it? The wind very brisk across the St. Lawrence Seaway here, as ever. There's lots of debris and rubbish floating around the place. Montoya, let's talk about these fuel tank sizes, James. I mean, there's a limit. You'd think, well, okay, why don't you just put a huge tank on? It seems to be, if you listen to us a lot, it seems to be the way to go. Just put a great big tank on. Of course, that compromises the car too much, in that the driver's feet have to be behind the centre line of the front axle. You've got to get the driver in then you've got to get the engine and gearbox into a reasonable wheelbase, and the space in the middle is for the fuel tank. So it's always a compromise between needing a bigger tank and having a car that is just too long.
Lap 42. Montoya still leading. Michael Schumacher dropping back from him now. Montoya took 0.3 of a second out of the Ferrari on that last lap, but of course Michael Schumacher has just made that pit stop and is fat with fuel. Raikkonen is third, fourth is Ralf Schumacher, fifth Coulthard, and sixth still Rubens Barrichello.
Welcome back. Well, while we're away on the break, this is Ralf Schumacher coming in at a disaster, AJ.
Yeah, I know. You go and plan a one-stop strategy and then you have something like this happen, which really sort of buggers up everything. They put the fuel cap in and they just had, I think they had to use Montoya's because, see, as you can see, they put his in, wasn't working, had to take it out, and now they've grabbed Montoya's and put it in. Here they go now. And that really is like a major tragedy in Formula One when you're only planning a one-stop strategy like that. So that's very, very costly indeed. Oh, Eddie Irvine and the Jaguar. Well, it looks like a bit flame. Oh, it's all happening truly out in the Renault. And Eddie Irvine looks like a retirement. He was in 12th position, so that was a shame.
Back live. Let's go back to the boys.
Get any fuel into that backup hose.
Yeah, well, that's put him right out of contention, hasn't it? He'd already lost position to Coulthard, Barrichello, and Fisichella. Now he's got another stop, and the fuel hose goes. Does it go on? It is on, yes. He selects first gear. The man on the hose is waiting to be told, okay, that's enough fuel, pull it off. He's got radio contact. He knows when to get the hose off. So obviously very little, if any, fuel went in last time in through the pits for Ralf Schumacher. McLaren mechanics in the pit lane getting ready too.
A few muttered swear words in German, no doubt, going on inside that visor of Ralf Schumacher's. Kimi Raikkonen, though, dives into the pit lane, was in third place for McLaren, trying to get his second podium of the season. How is this pit stop going to play out for him? This stop promotes Coulthard up into third place, but the Scotsman has yet to stop. Let's take a look at this.
Very casual, aren't they? They're very comfortable at the back there. That is supreme confidence from McLaren, and a great stop for him. An absolutely tremendous stop for the McLaren team then, and in comes Fisichella in the Jordan. He was up to 6th before he pitted, and they're also cleaning out the side pods. They just used the time that's available. So nearly lost that engine, didn't he? But what's surprising me is Michael Schumacher in second place is falling away from Montoya and is being caught by third place man Coulthard. Where on earth has Schumacher's pace gone? And why do we keep seeing, okay, he's been in fuel, but why do we keep seeing cars yo-yoing through the afternoon? There's nothing really clear to me why that's happening.
It's very odd indeed. The track temperature at the moment is 3 degrees lower than it was at the start of the race, but it's been relatively consistent throughout the event. We've had sunshine more or less the whole time, not too much cloud. There's a reasonable wind out there. The humidity is more or less the same. No immediate sign of any rain that had been possibly talked about earlier in the day, but the conditions clearly haven't changed all that much, but it's enough to affect the performance of some of these cars. And Michael Schumacher, as you say, giving away 0.6 of a second on that lap to Juan Montoya, the race leader.
And to the man chasing him, 0.8, David Coulthard. But we think they put enough fuel in that Ferrari to get him to the end of this 70-lap Grand Prix. Coulthard yet to stop, and surely will be stopping in the next few laps. So Michael not really in real terms under pressure from David Coulthard, but he's 9 seconds behind Montoya. Have they fueled Montoya from that sort of bizarre early stop? Could they have got enough fuel in Montoya's car to get him right to the end of the Grand Prix? I somehow doubt it, James.
Well, the best guess that we have from the information we're given from the teams is that you need 164 kilos of fuel to complete this Grand Prix. As one of the Jordans comes into the pits, that's Takuma Sato in 8th place. Now, Montoya came in on lap 16, after which time he would have used 40 kilos of fuel. That means to get him out to the finish, they'd have to put 120 kilos of fuel. Now, my information is the biggest fuel tank in Formula One is the McLaren, and that will hold about 110. And the Williams is about 105, so I can't see how they could have done it unless they're able to run that engine very lean. The safety car was only out for 2 or 3 laps, that's not enough to make a major difference, is it?
Now, maybe this fact that the safety car came in quite quickly caught Williams out on their strategy, because they didn't save enough fuel in those circumstances. But look, this is Coulthard now, just 1.3 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Schumacher lapping the Jordan of Sato, and Coulthard following suit.
Yeah, looks like it's going to have to be a splash and dash, as they call it, for Juan Montoya. Can't see how he's got enough fuel to make it to finish, but, well, he's been around long enough. Certainly in America, they get into splash and dash all the time. Here is the man. All the question marks are about this man. Can he make it through to the finish? Nails the throttle out of the hairpin. Down the long straightaway, building up tremendous speed here. Get up to about 210 miles an hour. And we've got an incident. It looks like McNish has lost it.
That'll be a safety car. If he can't move that car away from there, I think they'll have to consider a safety car in that scenario. That's the very nasty exit of turn 4 before the blind wall of 5, and it's so difficult to release marshals into that zone and allow them to try and clear that car. If he finds neutral and they can quickly move it out of the way under the cover of double waved yellows, they might just get away with it. But safety car's got to be an option right now.
Ironically, that's the precise place where Juan Montoya spun out last year, clouting the wall and taking Rubens Barrichello with him. This year, it could well be that corner's offered him an opportunity, because if they can't get that car out of the way, and they do seem to have got it to the side of the track, but oh, how much would Montoya have loved a safety car now? That would have helped his fuel consumption, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they've just dragged it, and I think they'll be satisfied. I think Charlie Whiting, the race director, will be satisfied that that car then is out of play, not really in a dangerous position. So safety car will not be needed.
Let's have a listen to this BMW engine. Hammering down the straight. You can't imagine how fast that is when you stand by that bridge. It flashes past you like a jet plane. Hit the brakes at 100-meter board. Turn right, turn left. Start a new lap. Lap 49 of 71 for race leader Juan Montoya. That BMW engine revving to about 18,000 RPM. Amazing technology, these Formula One cars. And, well, he's now a good 10.5 seconds ahead of his challenger Michael Schumacher. As into the pits comes David Coulthard, the last man making his stop. That's his girlfriend watching on. In comes Coulthard from third.
Coulthard had a 24.7 second lead over his teammate Raikkonen, and before this pit stop, and Raikkonen has already stopped. It's going to be nip and tuck as to which McLaren ends up in front of the other. That's a couple of seconds slower than that sensational Raikkonen pit stop we saw early on. So really, it'll be interesting to see how they come out, and a fight to the end then, it looks like, between the two McLarens. And, the moment Montoya's lead up to 10.9 seconds. If he's got to stop again, James, he is not going to win the Grand Prix.
And we believe that Coulthard did in fact get out in front of Raikkonen. So although it was a slightly slower stop, he managed to do it. David Coulthard is fourth, Kimi Raikkonen is fifth. And well, going into this race, Martin, they would have been happy, McLaren, with something like that, wouldn't they? You can see it for yourself now on the track. They didn't feel they could have raced the Williamses and the Ferraris today, fourth and fifth, but still, we've got 22 laps to go here. It's Juan Montoya leading on lap 51. Michael Schumacher, 11 seconds behind him in second place. Third is Barrichello, fourth is Coulthard. Fifth is Kimi Raikkonen, and sixth Giancarlo Fisichella. Montoya is pushing very hard. The question is, does he have to stop again? We'll find out soon.
You go to a break, Jones, you know what happens? In comes Montoya.
Yeah, they were just saying that they were confused that they brought him in with 19 laps to go, that they should have left him out there a bit longer. I have a tendency to disagree a little bit, because he was clearly the quickest car on the circuit, and perhaps they've brought him in just a little earlier than necessary to allow him those 19 laps to hopefully catch up to Schumacher, which, if he does, will make a very interesting couple of last laps.
Back to the boys.
Now we'll see if Montoya's got the pace to come back at Michael Schumacher, and at the moment he's got a lot of traffic in the way and some 7.8 seconds to find. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough for Montoya. Started on pole position with Michael Schumacher alongside him, but the positions have been reversed if you take Rubens Barrichello out of the equation, and certainly his second stop which is going to be imminent, will take the Brazilian out of the equation. It's looking good for second place for Montoya, but he'll want more than that from today. And you have to say Michael Schumacher's pace has been a bit erratic in this Grand Prix so far, as has Montoya's. Anything could happen in the remaining 18 laps here in Montreal.
Kind of assuming Michael Schumacher will let Barrichello past. That's a bit of a sensitive subject, isn't it, when you're talking about Ferraris? But it would make sense if we're right that Barrichello has to pit again. Surely he'll just let him go in the hope that he can come back into play and spoil it for the Williams later on.
Listen to this though, last lap for Michael Schumacher, 1:17.681, last lap for Juan Montoya, 1:16.462. The Colombian is charging.
Absolutely, and there he is, scything his way through the traffic, and he knows he's got something to do, and Barrichello does pit. That's why Michael didn't let him pass, because he was coming in at the end of the lap anyway. So that brings him out of contention. Will Barrichello get in front of Coulthard and Raikkonen? Well, Coulthard, it's touch and go. Raikkonen definitely yes. So it'll be a good fight, I think, for third place between Barrichello and Coulthard. Barrichello should just get the nod, I think, as he heads down to turn 1. But just 6 seconds then, Montoya now behind race leader Michael Schumacher.
Rubens Barrichello comes down this new pit lane exit. There is the McLaren. Can't see which one it is.
That's Coulthard. It's Coulthard in front. He's 10 seconds ahead of Raikkonen. So Coulthard then has just kept in front of Rubens Barrichello.
Fantastic result for David Coulthard and the whole of the McLaren-Mercedes team. Coulthard never been on the podium here in Montreal, and he's looking set fair at the moment, but we've still got some way to go, and we've still got some racing to go, not least between Juan Montoya and Michael Schumacher. It's going to be a grandstand finale here in Montreal, because the man they call the monster, Juan Montoya, is motoring. Last lap again, he took another second out of the lead of Michael Schumacher. Oh, fantastic stuff.
Rubens Barrichello still paying the price of being on a light fuel load and then having a safety car period where any advantage was taken away from him. Look, this is this new super fast pit exit, but Coulthard's already at the apex of 2, and Barrichello, I thought, would probably carry more acceleration out of there, but nonetheless Coulthard comfortably keeping that position. And earlier on in the race, after Barrichello's first pit stop, he slotted in behind Coulthard and really couldn't make any impression on him. So there, set fair for a good scrap for the final podium position, but the lead is up to 7.1 seconds now, James. Louise is in the pits.
Eddie, it was a fairly spectacular exit to the race.
Just finishing my drink of Aquapura. Yeah, we weren't really in it at all, you know. We were just sort of doing the race we thought we would do, which is like hanging around the back, trying to get to the finish. We didn't manage to do that.
Got a new package coming at Silverstone. That probably can't be too soon for you.
Yeah, until then we're just we're hoping something is given to us. Really, hopefully whenever that comes, we can deserve to get some points.
Thank you.
Well, a very sad-sounding Eddie Irvine, not the normal gregarious, strong-minded person we're used to there. But I think the reason that Montoya slipped a second on the last lap was he made a mistake coming into this last chicane and had to take to the escape road, as we've seen him do 2 other times in this Grand Prix. And he's done it again, and he's sick. I think that's got a sick engine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look at the smoke coming out of the back. Oh, not again. 2 races in a row, he's lost the engine. Would you believe it? Juan Montoya, just as he was pushing to catch up with Michael Schumacher. It's game over, game, set and match. And how do these boys feel? Look at that. The frustration is written all over their faces.
Well, bad news for us too. I think we were set for a great finish to this Grand Prix. A classic head-to-head that's just been taken away from us by that sick engine on Montoya's Williams. What a shame. Elevates Coulthard up into 2nd, Barrichello 3rd, Raikkonen 4th. Fisichella moves up to 5th. Trulli then will be in the final point-scoring position in 6th at the moment, as Montoya makes his way back to the pits. I bet he'll still be chirpy though, because he always is somehow, isn't he?
Yeah, he seems to manage to shrug it all off. You can see again as he comes through the final chicane. And he straight-lined it. He obviously knew there was a problem. Then the whiff of smoke was the first signal that all was not well in the BMW department. And kaboom! It let go. And ironically, he goes and parks it precisely where this morning in the warm-up Michael Schumacher parked his Ferrari, having blown the engine. But somehow it happens in the race for Montoya, where it happens in the warm-up for Michael.
Yes, two more laps for Michael's engine this morning and it would have blown up in the Grand Prix. And Michael, as they say, better to be born lucky than rich in many respects, but Michael always gets the rub of the green somehow. But I do say you make your own luck. Now we've got a good scrap for what was third place, is now second place in this Grand Prix. Coulthard running very long, the last man of the primary runners to pit, and he made that count by putting some hot laps in between laps 45 and 50 to bring himself up into play. And now he's got a fight on his hand to somehow keep Rubens Barrichello from making it a Ferrari 1-2.
Well, the really bad news for those Williams mechanics, as if the engine blowing up wasn't bad enough, is that if Michael Schumacher can just stay where he is now, he will move on to 70 World Championship points, and neither of the two Williams cars look like scoring anything today. Obviously, we've seen Montoya out, and Ralf Schumacher is down in 8th place, albeit pushing very hard. As a philosophical one, Montoya comes back. Well, what could I do? What could I do, he says. 43 points he'll be behind Michael Schumacher at the end of this race if things stay as they are, and Schumacher will have taken one giant leap closer to his 5th world title.
Makes June the 26th seem a bit more significant when the World Council meet to consider any retribution for the Ferrari swap over in Austria. All eyes will be on that, I think, later this month to see if Michael Schumacher takes any pain for that incident or the podium procedure. There is a meeting then, but this is the fight for second. Two men that were head-to-head in the British Formula 3 Championship. Barrichello taking that championship at that moment, but they've had several run-ins over the years, their careers very much on a parallel path. But Coulthard has got track position, and it's not that easy to overtake around here. Maybe Barrichello's best chance will be in the lapping traffic.
Well, McLaren-Mercedes going to be very, very happy with the way things have gone for them this afternoon. Reliability has been the watchword, and David Coulthard up in 2nd place, probably more than they would have dreamed of or indeed expected. Certainly to have a Ferrari behind them was more than Ron Dennis was expecting this morning.
I don't think Raikkonen's having a happy stage of the Grand Prix either, but this is a new fight just developing for 6th place, truly in that point-scoring position at the moment. But Ralf, having recovered from a very long pit stop with a fuel rig problem to pitting again the next lap because he had no fuel in the car at all, and he's come back through the field and is now chasing truly for a World Championship point.
Yes, battles all the way through the field. Ralf Schumacher and Trulli scrapping for 6th. Massa and Panis scrapping for 8th. Very, very close fight. It's been going on for most of the race, really. Button is still going strongly in 10th place, but it's not really been his day or indeed his weekend. Mark Webber going quite well in the Minardi. He's up to 12th place, and it's been a bit of a difficult weekend for the Minardi team, with indications certainly from the other team owners that they're not going to be allowed to have the money from the defunct Prost team, or the prize money that should have been going to Prost team, which certainly Paul Stoddard, the boss of Minardi, believes should come to him by right, and the other team owners don't all necessarily agree with him. And Stoddard's not sure whether, he was saying he's not sure whether he's got enough money to make it through the end of the season. Certainly Mark Webber running strongly in 12th place at the moment will be a real boost to them.
15 runners in the Grand Prix then at this time, as that fight for 2nd place is Coulthard looks supremely under pressure then from Barrichello. Barrichello really looking like he's got some extra pace. Can he find a way through? Will the Jordan clear the way? Has Barrichello got enough of a toe? You'll have to cover the gap, DC, otherwise he's just going to sprint past you. A double toe there, and Coulthard says, you're not coming through there, buddy, and they both cross the chicane, and that's important for David Coulthard. Otherwise, I think he could have been considered to have retained the position by going across the chicane. The fact they both went across means he may get away with it. So Coulthard really got caught out behind the Jordan. Barrichello with the toe from the McLaren and the extra toe from the Jordan as well just catapulted past, and Coulthard says, I'm going to come straight back down the outside. I will not give up this 2nd place, and the pair of them then scamper across the green painted concrete. They must so nearly have touched, and DC might just get away with that.
Fantastic scrap here in the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix. David Coulthard supremely late on the brakes, paid the price by having to go straight across the chicane, but luckily for him, so too did Rubens Barrichello. No penalty then, probably, we hope, for either driver. This is lap 61, 10 to go in Montreal. Michael Schumacher leads Coulthard by 17.9 seconds. Rubens Barrichello is third. Well, you can see the gap for yourself. Raikkonen fourth. Fifth is Fisichella. Looking, we haven't seen him much all afternoon. It's been a fairly anonymous afternoon for the Italian in the Jordan, but he started sixth on the grid, was hoping for some more points for the Jordan team. They've scored in both of the last two races, and he's looking set fair for that at the moment, isn't he? Jarno Trulli, well, they had a great scrap, Fisichella and Trulli, in the closing stages in Monaco, and right now, Trulli closing in on the back of the Jordan. He wants fifth place off him. So it's been an eventful afternoon here, and we've still no doubt got a few more things around the corner still to come. This is lap 62. 9 more to go.
Car caught fire. So Coulthard, Ben and Button, the only two British runners. Coulthard up in second. Button, as I said, down in 10. Still a good fight on for second and third. We've not seen any sign on the computers that the stewards are investigating that incident where both Coulthard and Barrichello missed the final chicane. It was pretty much status quo when they came out, so they should get away with it. And there is that fight down for second and third. And Ralf Schumacher still hasn't found a way past sixth place man Jarno Trulli.
Well, it's been an eventful afternoon here in Montreal. Off the start line, Michael Schumacher let his teammate Rubens Barrichello through. Barrichello was on a lighter fuel load. He was on a two-stop strategy where Montoya and Michael Schumacher off the front row were both on one-stoppers. Montoya led away then with Barrichello second and Michael Schumacher third. Jacques Villeneuve retired on lap 10, the local hero. Then we had a safety car period to retrieve his car, and curiously, Juan Montoya decided to make a pit stop at that stage to put fuel in. We thought it was impossible he could have put enough fuel in to get himself through to the finish, and so it proved when he made a splash and dash stop later in the race. But Montoya's engine KO'd big time as he went across the start-finish line about 15 or 20 minutes ago when he was chasing down Michael Schumacher very, very hard indeed for the win. We looked like we were all set for a grandstand finish between the two of them. It didn't happen. Also in the wars this afternoon has been Ralf Schumacher, who had a very, very long pit stop for a fuel hose that simply didn't work. He had to make another stop to put fuel in the car, and that's dropped him right down into 7th place. But it's been incident and action right the way through the afternoon. A terrific Grand Prix.
To tell you about the retirees then, in case your favourite driver is amongst them. Montoya, we've heard, engine failure. McNish spun, turn 4. Irvine, fire. Salo, we saw pulling out somewhere in the first sector of the race. De La Rosa with a technical problem too. Bernoldi pulled into the pits, and Villeneuve with a technical failure left him stranded out on the racetrack, and he was the cause of the pace car period that really hampered those drivers on two-stop light fuel load because they lost their advantage, and it definitely changed the whole emphasis of the afternoon. Louise is in the pits.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier on that Juan Pablo Montoya is normally fairly philosophical when things go wrong. That was certainly the case in Monaco 2 weeks ago. Not today, though. He's very upset. He spoke to his press officer. She tells me there was nothing printable that came out of his mouth, though, and he's just walked up the back of the paddock, refusing point blank to speak to any of the press, looking very, very upset. He's left the circuit.
Juan Pablo Montoya has left the circuit.
Elvis has left the building. Well, he's entitled to feel a bit miffed, I think. He was really on a charge, and I think when he got the red mist that he clearly had, and he was pushing to catch Michael Schumacher, for the engine to let go for a second consecutive Grand Prix when he was set there for a big points finish. Well, I think we can allow him that one occasion when he doesn't feel like speaking to us. Certainly, I don't blame him at all. I know if I was driving the car and that had happened to me, I would probably explode with rage. Lap 67, 4 to go here in Montreal. Coulthard just pegging down Michael Schumacher now. He's taken a second out of him on that last lap, 10 seconds the gap, but Michael maybe just managing that pace now as we close down into the final stages of the Grand Prix. This, though, the battle on the track. Two great scraps at the moment. Coulthard, Barrichello for second, and this one here for the final points-paying position, Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher.
Fisichella in 5th, looks like yet another 2 points for the Jordan team. No sign of points, though, this afternoon, yet again for BAR Honda, despite their new package that appeared to give them so much more performance this weekend than we've seen of late.
Yes, and points haven't been that easy to come by this afternoon. It's not been a race where they've been giving them away. We've still got 2 McLarens, we've still got 2 Renaults, we've still got 1 Williams as the Benetton pulls off there. Is that Jenson Button? Yeah, Jenson Button out of the race from 10th place.
Well, that completes his miserable afternoon. He had no chance of scoring any World Championship points anyway. Coulthard's put in a good run to keep himself up there. Hasn't really had great pace all afternoon. Just obviously decided to go out there as long and hard as he could on a full tank of gas. This is your leader, Michael Schumacher, who's coasting. And that's exactly not what's going on behind him, with Coulthard very much under pressure from Barrichello. We saw one of the moves and counter moves of the race a few laps back, as Barrichello appeared to catch Coulthard by surprise, as Coulthard was in the slipstream of a Jordan, and just slingshot past him into the last corner. And that's Ralph busy rejoining. I think he was rejoining, having made a mistake on the way into turn 1, wasn't he?
Yeah, certainly seemed to be in some kind of difficulty. You could hear a huge bite of traction control as he planted his throttle on the floor. So a little bit of rage going on in that cockpit as well. There'll be some stern words, I would imagine, in the team debriefing at BMW Williams. They've had a few things that caused concern and anger this afternoon, not least Montoya's blow-up and Ralf Schumacher's problem with the fuel hose.
I don't know what's happened to Raikkonen. He was very good, wasn't he, in the first early stages of the Grand Prix, really running well, and was nip and tuck with Coulthard after their pit stops. They came out just a few tenths apart. Raikkonen now half a minute behind that scrap for 3rd place, because clearly not happy with his car on that second set of tyres, or some other technical problem. No great pace for him, and if he's not careful, he'll come under pressure from 5th place man Fisichella as well.
Well, whatever is happening to him, he's still going. 2 more laps to go, and it's been 3 months, would you believe, since Kimi Raikkonen saw a checkered flag at the end of a Grand Prix. 4 straight retirements and a whole host of other problems for the young Finn. At the moment, he's on for 4 World Championship points, and I have to ask you, Martin, at this stage, as we always do traditionally, for your driver of the day. Quite a number of candidates, I would think. Montoya was pretty strong today. Rubens Barrichello tried a few things with the strategy, but perhaps they haven't quite paid off for him the way he would have liked. David Coulthard has done very well, from 8th on the grid to come up into 2nd place. Giancarlo Fisichella scoring more points for the Jordan team. Who's it going to be?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I've been thinking about it, and nobody really stands out as having done a stunning job today. In fact, they all seem to have had good bits and bad bits, inconsistent lap times. By the way, Michael Schumacher's lead is down to just 3.9 seconds, even though it is the final lap. Fisichella's done well, he's up there in 5th. I think it's got to go. You know, was Montoya involved in that early pit stop? Because that seemed the wrong thing to do. But for me, Montoya has to be the driver of the race.
So Martin Brundle's driver of the day, Juan Montoya. How disappointing for him, for the team, and for everybody who loves Grand Prix racing, that he wasn't able to maintain that challenge right through to the checkered flag. Then we really would have seen something special. But we've seen a Ferrari driven extremely well, although he's leaving it a bit late. He doesn't want to slow down too much more. David Coulthard is certainly going to close up on him. I hope Michael hasn't got any kind of problems. It must be tantalising for Coulthard to see the Ferrari so close to him and to know that the victory isn't going to come his way. But, well, as he comes down the final straight now, just a couple more turns for Michael Schumacher.
Absolutely, it must be odd for DC. He's got a Ferrari disappearing in his mirrors and another one looming up in his vision.
Yeah, but Michael Schumacher claims Ferrari's 150th Grand Prix victory, his 6th of the season. A tremendous win for Ferrari and for Schumacher. He's now a big, big step closer to his 5th world title. Well, it's becoming business as usual for the Ferrari team. They're used to winning, but they'll take them whichever way they come. And Schumacher didn't have to fight quite as hard with Montoya as he might have expected here this afternoon. Schumacher wins then. Coulthard 2nd, Barrichello 3rd. That's the podium we'll be seeing in a few moments' time. Kimi Raikkonen gets his first finish for 3 months in 4th place. 5th and more points for the Jordan team. Giancarlo Fisichella, another super performance from him on a track which he knows and loves very well. 4 times on the podium here, Fisichella. Tremendous record around this track. And Jarno Trulli in the Renault comes in 6th for a 2nd consecutive points finish. Ralf Schumacher just missing out in 7th. And in a few moments' time, we will see what kind of smile Michael Schumacher has for Ferrari's 150th Grand Prix victory.
Hello and welcome to our live and exclusive coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix. And there is Mr. Montoya. He is the man of the moment at the moment for Williams, let me tell you. Alan Jones, early in the morning, but live, that's good.
Yes, good morning, Des. Good morning, everyone.
Williams on pole.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? And the Michelin is really showing now that they're perhaps not as heat dependent as we thought, because it's not unduly hot over there at the moment, but we still have two Michelin-shod cars on the first two rows. Good news for the tyre company. Now, there have been a number of little subtle changes to this circuit. Yeah, they've shortened the hairpin, well, they've brought it back a little bit. I can only assume to make the runoff area a lot longer. And they've altered the pit exit, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But because they've shortened it in some places, the race is now going to be 1 lap longer, 70 laps instead of 69. It's a place you used to like to race. Oh, I always enjoyed going there. It was great because the circuit was next to very close to the hotels, and they in turn were very close to the airport, so I could get home earlier. All right, qualifying, Montoya on pole. Let's have a look at how they got there. Here's Tim Gilbert.
Canada, and it was a battle between the master and the pupil, Michael Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. And it was the young Colombian who won the day, grabbing pole position. Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari spun his way into third spot on the grid. Ralph Schumacher in his Williams will start in fourth position. Sato in his Jordan got a little hot under the collar, but escaped without injury. Kimi Raikkonen will start in fifth spot in his McLaren. David Coulthard in the other McLaren had a tougher day. He was eighth fastest. Giancarlo Fisichella in his Jordan will start in sixth spot. Nick Heidfeld has put his Sauber into seventh. Meanwhile, at his home Grand Prix, Circuit Villeneuve will start from ninth. But the man they'll all have to catch, Juan Pablo Montoya.
I gave it a good go, and that was quite good, but if you really put the sectors together, could have gone a bit quicker as well. It's a big, quite interesting race tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Let's see some fireworks there as Montoya lines up on the front row next to Michael Schumacher. Behind them, Schumacher's teammate and Montoya's teammate. Next is Kimi Raikkonen, great thing for him, in fifth position for McLaren. Fisichella in sixth. Heidfeld, Coulthard, Villeneuve, Trulli, Panis, Massa, Button, Irvine, Sato, De La Rosa, Benoldi, Salo, Frenson, McNish, Mark Webber and Alex Young bringing up the rear just half a second inside the 107% qualification rule. We've talked about the tyres right throughout the season. Now Bridgestone really look like they're coming on their own. Well, I think what's happened is that Michelin have only had one season behind them. They're using the data that they got last year. That's putting them into good effect. And I think, as I said before, they're becoming just a little bit weather dependent less. So once upon a time, if it was a cool track, you could almost forget the Michelins. I think they've addressed that, and they're showing it. All right, we'll take a break. Back shortly. Stay with us. Live coverage. Back. Let's have a look at the points of interest that are around Formula One at the moment. Now, this is pretty complicated. We have covered it before. While there are no Aussies in action outside Formula One this weekend, there is one very much in Formula One news at the moment. You may remember the last time that we spoke about the tussle over the TV money for Minardi. As Minardi finished 10th in 99 and 2000, Paul Stoddard believes the money belongs to his team and has circulated a document to all team owners asking their agreement. However, Stoddard has now said that Tom Walkinshaw has sent his own letter to every team except Minardi, asking the other team bosses to instead distribute the money among the top 9 teams from 2001. AJ, this thing is really getting messy. Well, it almost seems like Tom Walkinshaw has got the axe out for Stoddart and Minardi. I mean, every time they want to do something, it's invariably Walkinshaw that's putting up the red flag. I can see both sides of the argument, but for goodness sake, like, Minardi need the help, they need the money. We want to see more cars in Formula One, not less. Let's give them a bit of a help and get on with it. Well, I'm talking about there was some talk that they're going to sue each other, but apparently that can't happen. The so-called Concord Agreement prohibits them from suing each other, but it can go to arbitration, and I'm just wondering who the arbitrator would be. I think I've got a fair idea. All right, in the meantime, still on Stoddard, he's signed an obscure Slovak called Jirko
Malkaric, and as his new test driver. Now, the 35-year-old is a member of Parliament. Have a listen to this, a sports commentator. The suggestion from the paddock is that Malkaric has bought the test drive as an exercise in self-promotion. So both sides win as he gets the publicity and Minardi gets the cash. Funny being Formula One. I mean...
he's probably got an ego he can't jump over.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, 35-year-old test driver, I mean, where's he going? Where's his future? I mean, I just find that totally ridiculous.
Well, I suppose Stoddart just looking to whatever cash he can get, because the word is, if he doesn't get cash very shortly, he won't go past the British Grand Prix.
No, well, as I said last time we were on air, he is going out the back door to the tune of about $1 million a week, I believe, which is not good, that is for sure.
And the rumour is that Webber has had a talk with both Toyota and Renault. Well, he is contracted to Renault.
Well, Mark's done exactly what he should have done, and that's to do with the very best he can in the machinery that he's got. And he has done that extremely well. And other people have looked at that and thought, well, hang on, if he's doing that in that thing, maybe he can do a real good job in our car.
Okay. Now, there's been a change to the pit exit. We mentioned that off the top of the show for today's race. I think it was Schumacher nearly hitting Frentzen some years ago now.
It's always been a really dicey exit leaving the pits here. So what they've done is when you leave the pits, you run parallel with the circuit for a while before you come in.